So I was talking to one of my family members yesterday, ultra talented artist, and she was basically telling me how she was overthinking a lot, right? How she feels as if she can just do everything, right? And she's very smart, but it's just hard putting her attention into one thing. Work is draining her. She's just in her head a lot. It's just her mental is really taking a toll on her, right? Because of how bright she is and how much potential she has, and she knows it. She's trying to, in other words, manage it, and it's getting difficult. Now, I go through the same thing, right? I feel like a lot of people go through this, regardless of age, right? Management of your life. But when it comes to the subject of being an artist, right? Because I feel like the true essence of a lot of that mental chaos is you and us wanting to do the things that we truly want to do, right? So while we were talking, another family member was there, and she was basically telling her, reset, you know, take time out, stop, love yourself, do self care, etc. And I sided with that. But then I also added another, layer to that equation. Um, I told her, do the things you need to do, right? And I tried to open up the perspective a little bit, right? I'm gonna take my glasses off for this video. So when you do the things that you need to do, that's the simple things like going to eat breakfast, um, you know, hygiene, literally making money, whatever fact, like being creative, walking your dog, because I be forgetting sometimes, doing the things that you need to do, right? Once you get into flow of just when thoughts come, you execute, right? You minimize the time span between idea and action. You declutter yourself naturally. When you have such a bright mind, you're also receptive to a lot of different things, right? So you have a lot of different thoughts, you have a lot of different ideas, you have a lot of different just everything coming to you. If you just allow things to come into your space, come into your field, and you don't have an avenue for them to come out, for them to release, is you're going to have that sense of overwhelmed and overthinking, etc. Because when you're getting the ideas, when you're getting the information, when you're getting the intuition, you're just not acting on it. So all the things that you're not acting on is starting to compile, and it's starting to make you somewhat regret. With me, I've noticed I'm the least anxious when I'm doing the things my spirit told me to do, right? Like living up to things that I know I need to do. When you delay processes, that's going to cause anxiety. And I feel like overthinking is just a byproduct of anxiety, right? You're scared or worried about something in the future that isn't necessarily happening in the now, right? Because I read this thing too. It's in the book The Power of Now, I believe. It's a very spiritual book. It was recommended to me by, a spiritual advisor, in other words. And the book basically said, take like life or death instances, right? God forbid we ever face those situations, right? We always speak positivity and love and abundance and purity over the situations. And I'm speaking that over this video since I brought up that word, right? But when you're in those instances, you don't overthink. You usually don't even think, right? It's what do I need to do? Option A, option B. If one looks a little bit better than the other one, if my gut is leaning more towards A than B, I'm going to go do A. That flight or flight response, whatever the case may be, is going to sink in, right? And you don't, when your adrenaline's pumping, you're not overthinking, you're just doing, right? That's kind of what I'm talking about. When you actually need to think, like I mean, the when you really need to think, You will do it naturally. You won't have to go. Your brain won't go into overdrive, right? I believe there's certain parts of your brain that are dormant until you actually need it, right? I think that's why they say we don't use all of our brain, right? Because there's just certain places that only pop up and only get activated when you truly need it, right? So you don't need to always be in this state where you're worried about the next move. What are you going to do? You're like almost reliving situations that haven't exist and may not even exist, right? If I'm somewhere, for instance, and I just start getting a whole bunch of anxiety, I say this in a lot of my videos. There's either two things that you can do. You can either ask yourself, do I need to hold my energy? Because sometimes you can be getting anxious because you're giving too much of yourself away, right? That could be a job. You're giving too much of yourself to this job and it's making you anxious, right? It's just throwing you off. You're giving too much energy to a conversation, right? Something is unaligning, it's starting to may turn into an argument or just something's unsettling and you just keep on giving, right? Instances like that, God may be asking you to conserve your energy, right? Whatever is making you anxious, pull your energy back from it, pull it back into you, and you immediately start calming down, right? And sometimes that looks like separating yourself, and it really does bring a sense of calming over the situation. And then option B is God asking me to exert more energy. For instance, because I'm going to use the job again, because it seems like a lot of people are being getting drained by their work, in other words, which is normal for, I guess, for people and artists. But as an artist, it's really going to be detrimental. But that option B, like I was saying, is do I need to do more? So let's say if you're at the job and you start getting anxious, is God asking you to do something and you're ignoring it? Are you do you have like a really potent idea, something that you need to go journal, something that you need to go look up, go do, go execute, but you're delaying it? That's going to make you anxious, right? Sometimes, like I remember there's been instances where I was doing something so unaligned, right? I was basically like forcing myself to sit in an unaligned energy, right? Forcing myself to be in a low vibrational frequency, right? I didn't feel like I deserved something else or whatever the case may be, right? And I would just be sitting there anxious as hell, right? My spirit, my mind, I'm getting flashes of ideas, things that I can do, things that I could be putting my energy into, just different outlets, different ways that I could possibly change what I'm going through. But I'm just not doing it. And while I'm not doing it, I'm just getting more and more anxious because now I'm wasting time. Time is our greatest asset, right? So just the process of me sitting in that indecision is a decision and it's causing me to become more anxious. So at some point I need to exert more energy. And sometimes that looks like stopping what you're doing and refocusing somewhere else. You never know what that refocus is for, why God is asking you to refocus. Sometimes you may just need to refocus. Take your energy off what you're doing and put it back onto what you know you need to be doing. And a lot of the anxiety goes away too. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of just acknowledging what's causing your anxiety, right? Why do you feel the way that you feel? And what can you do to prohibit the overthink? Because there's usually an action that you can do that subsides or subdues the overthinking. Not to say that you're not going to overthink anymore, right? Because if you're a very good thinker, if you're an artist, etc., your mind is going to be on 24/7. But you'll be more at peace knowing you're bringing more ideas down than not.